Once upon a time, in a world filled with talking animals, mischievous gremlins, and witches who brewed their tea with spiders, there was an unassuming crayon that lived in a box of 64 other crayons. This was not your average crayon. Oh no, this crayon had a secret talent. Whenever it drew a door, the door appeared in real life. It could be any door, a wooden door, a metal door, even a magical door made of pure rainbow sprinkles. But why? Why did this crayon have this peculiar ability? No one knows. But as you can imagine, this crayon's talent often caused chaos. One day, a young witch named Hazel was drawing a picture for her potions class. She wanted to draw a cauldron bubbling merrily on top of a stove, but she couldn't remember what kind of door her teacher had mentioned earlier. Hazelrum family members were known for their forgetfulness, so she got out the crayon box, a family heirloom passed down from witch to witch for generations. She searched through the crayons, desperately looking for the right color to draw the door. Ah, there it was, the perfect shade of deep purple. She pulled out the crayon and started to draw. Just as she finished, the classroom door burst open, and in walked Headmistress Myrtle, a stern witch with a pointy hat and a wart that quivered whenever she got excited, which was often. "Ah, Hazel," she boomed, "you've drawn the door exactly as I described it. The color, the swirling patterns, the tiny spider webs on the corners. It's marvelous." Hazel blushed. The crayon slipped out of her hand and skittered across the table, knocking over an ink bottle. Before Hazel could clean up the mess, Headmistress Myrtle snatched the crayon and marched out of the classroom. "I see a tremendous potential in this crayon," she said, "a potential that needs to be explored." And with that, she locked Hazel out of her classroom and disappeared down a hallway. Hazel slumped onto the floor. She had never been very good at magic, and without her trusty crayon, she doubted she'd ever get it to improve. She missed the crayon terribly. Its wax crayon smell permeated every corner of her bedroom, and its absence left a gaping hole in her heart. What was she going to do? She thought about sneaking into Headmistress Myrtle's office to grab the crayon back, but that seemed like a bad idea. The headmistress was rarely in her office, and when she was, the door magically sealed itself shut so no one could enter unless given explicit permission. In fact, that was how she had gotten the crayon in the first place. She'd simply asked the door to let her in, and poof, the door had opened as if by magic. No, Hazel needed another way in. As she pondered her options, she heard a voice behind her. "Are you looking for this?" Startled, Hazel turned around to see a gargoyle perched on her windowsill. In its claws was her crayon. "How did you get that?" she asked. The gargoyle blinked slowly. "I borrowed it," he said, shifting uncomfortably. "I'm terribly sorry, but I need it back. It has special powers and I don't know how to control them yet." The gargoyle sighed dramatically. "Powers? Always with the powers. All I want is to be left alone to enjoy my books and maybe eat a few mice. Is that too much to ask?" He looked pleadingly at Hazel. Hazel knew that look. She'd seen it on stray cats outside the bakery she liked to visit. They all wanted the same thing, food and peace. Hazel smiled. She knew just how to help him. She grabbed a piece of paper and drew a bowl brimming with mice. Then she drew some cozy cat beds. Finally, she drew a giant stack of books with titles like Advanced Gargoyle Whistling Techniques and Gargoyle Etiquette for Social Situations. The gargoyle gasped. "Oh, my, you really captured the essence of my soul," he said, swooping down to take the picture. "Now, where were we?" Hazel asked. "Oh, yes, the crayon. I suppose I should probably give it back to you, shouldn't I?" With that, he handed over the crayon and flew off toward the bookshelf. When Hazel knocked on the headmistress's office door, it didn't open, but she wasn't worried. She knocked again, and the door swung inward, revealing an empty room. On the desk, however, sat a new crayon, one that smelled just like the old one. It was slightly shorter now, which meant Hazel knew exactly what had happened. Headmistress Myrtle had used the crayon to draw a door out of her office. and gone to get more crayons from the Crayon Emporium, the only place in town where magic crayons were sold. Hazel smiled. She had a feeling this crayon would be useful. As she left the office, she stopped by the supply closet. Maybe she could draw a nice comfy chair for herself, she thought. But then she remembered the gargoyle and his love of books and cozy things. So instead, she drew a giant armchair with a footrest and a side table holding a pot of steaming tea. The gargoyle must have gotten tired of waiting and went to check on Hazel himself. He poked his head into the closet. "Good heavens, Hazel," he exclaimed, "you read my mind. I do love tea, especially when it's served with a biscuit or two." Hazel laughed. "Come on, then let's go sit by the fire and chat." They settled into the chair and soon became fast friends. Over steaming mugs of tea, they talked about gargoyles and magic crayons and everything else that made their lives so wonderfully chaotic. But soon the conversation turned serious. Hazel told the gargoyle about her troubles in potions class and how she felt like she'd never amount to anything as a witch. The gargoyle listened patiently, sipping his tea. When Hazel finished, he said, "You know, you may have just what you're looking for in the crayon box." Hazel stared at him in confusion. He continued, "It's not just about the crayon, is it? It's about what you do with it. It doesn't matter if you have a magic crayon. If you don't believe in yourself, you won't be able to harness its power." His words struck a chord within Hazel. She realized that she'd been relying on the crayon to solve all her problems instead of facing them head-on. Just then, Headmistress Myrtle bustled into the room. "Ah, there you are, Hazel," she said. "I was wondering where you'd gone. I need your help in the kitchen. We are making a batch of bat wing stew, and we are a witch short on stirring spoons." Hazel perked up. Maybe she couldn't have the magic crayon, but she could still use her skills to help others. "Of course, Headmistress," she replied, grabbing the new crayon from the box and marching toward the door. "Let's go stir some stew." As they walked, Hazel noticed something strange. The crayon seemed to be glowing faintly. "Do you feel that?" she asked the headmistress. "Feel what?" The headmistress looked confused. "This crayon," Hazel said, pointing to it. "It's warm." The headmistress followed Hazel's gaze and gasped. "Oh, dear," she exclaimed, "you're right. I think we better get to the kitchen quickly." In the kitchen, the other witches looked up in surprise as Hazel entered. "What's with the crayon?" one of them asked. Hazel shrugged. She didn't know. Suddenly, the crayon started to glow brightly, illuminating the entire room. The witches screamed and ran for cover as the crayon grew hotter and hotter. Then, whoosh, the crayon shot out of Hazel's hand and landed in the cauldron. The potion inside bubbled furiously and shot up into the air. The witches crowded around the cauldron, staring in amazement. "Look," one whispered, "it's a door." Sure enough, floating above the brew was a magnificent silver door adorned with shimmering stars. It looked like the entrance to a spaceship. Headmistress Myrtle beamed. My, what a lucky accident," she said, chuckling. "I think it's time we pay a surprise visit to the Crayon Emporium." And with that, she stepped through the door. The other witches followed, leaving Hazel alone in the kitchen. For a moment, she felt left out, but then a smile crept onto her face. She didn't need a magic crayon to feel special. She had a gift, too. She might not be able to draw doors, but she could help others find their way through them. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through the door and into the unknown. The end.